Welcome to Immersive Reality. We are here to prove the case for augmented and virtual reality and immersive technologies in business, entertainment, and marketing. I'm your co-host Dave Mason, founder of Uncommon, an agency empowering retail brands and institutions with the ability to deliver immersive experiences to their audiences through augmented reality and interactive installations.
My name's Bradley Smith, co-host of Immersive Reality and founder of AVO, software to create, manage, and measure web augmented reality campaigns. Dave and I have a lot of war stories to share, so buckle up and get ready to immerse yourself. Welcome back to Immersive Reality. Today, on episode 5, we have a really exciting episode because we talk about this often, yet we haven't really explained it yet. And what I'm talking about is existing platforms. You've heard in the last few episodes us talk about these platforms where you can publish your AR content, your AR media, and your experiences, but we're going to take a deep dive today and go over the existing platforms, what they are, why are we talking about them, who should use them, how can we use them, but more importantly, why are we talking about them today?
Existing platforms, they're super powerful, right? I mean, they're things that people already have in their hands or have access to. There's no hardware required. There's no extra software required. There's no apps to download. And people everywhere have the ability to create on these tools. So that's why we want to talk about existing platforms. First of which is Facebook and Instagram. So one of the cool things that Facebook has done is build this authoring tool called Spark AR. And Spark AR is a piece of software you can go download yourself. You don't have to pay for it. It's free. You can upload 3D and 2D assets into it and publish things like face filters or we call them spatial filters or objects in the room and different interactive experiences. And they can be super, super simple. They're not something that takes a whole lot of overhead to create. And even though you can make them very involved and get into custom development, it's something that you can create a very unique experience inside of a platform that people already use. So how many people, Bradley, are on Facebook and Instagram?
It's like at least 1.2 billion active users.
1.2 billion? Like that's insane. All those people already have access to it. And you can get to those people in augmented reality without having to force anything onto their phones. They're already there. So Facebook and Instagram are super powerful in that regard.
And just one point here that I really want to make is how easy it is. I mean, if you can create a Facebook advertisement through Ads Manager, if you're remotely familiar with that platform, creating campaigns in augmented reality through Spark AR, I mean, it really is very similar. They've used very similar structure of publishing these campaigns. So don't freak yourself out with thinking AR is going to be this really difficult thing. I mean, if you can create an ad in Facebook, you can create an ad in Spark AR. It really is not that difficult.
It's not that difficult. I think a lot of people just assume because it's a techie thing that it's going to be over their head, but it's really not. Especially for the designers out there, anybody that's been in the creative or production worlds, if you've ever opened up like Photoshop or Illustrator or After Effects or InDesign, anything like that where you're required to learn the basics of a tool and learn how to put assets on a page or in a piece of media or something, Spark AR is just the same. It's just doing it in 3D. It's making it in a world that you can move around. It's not flat. It's not hard. So who can use it? Anybody. How can you use it? Go download Spark AR and check it out for yourself. The second one that is really powerful is Snapchat. And they were kind of the OG when it comes to AR and face filters, right? I mean, they started super early with just basic AR face filters. Then they got into the spatial filters and objects in the room, the image recognition stuff. But they took it a step further. And now they're doing these things where you can actually add content to physical structures like the US Capitol, the Eiffel Tower, the Flatiron Building in New York City. So they go from like being very simple with just a face filter to being super complex. And the tool that they've made available to anybody that wants to create on Snapchat is called Lens Studio. Snapchat does a great job of building a tool that people can easily import assets. They can drop them into an AR environment. They can publish it to Snapchat. Snapchat actually creates snap codes for all your experiences. So if you do want to share that with somebody, they just have to scan the snap code and it opens up the AR filter. It's super cool. Again, it's one of those things where you can make it super simple, or you can take it over the top and do a fully custom development, or you can take it over the top and develop this fully custom experience for people inside of Snapchat. And I think, how many users does Snapchat have now? I feel like they're around like 250 million.
Yeah, I was going to say 300 million, around there.
300 million. Again, so you're at, between Facebook, Instagram, and Snapchat, you're at 1.5 billion people. Just think about that. If you're concerned that AR is not in the mass yet, you are totally mistaken. 1.5 billion people are able to access augmented reality right now.
And one thing to take a note on about Snapchat is, I think it's from like 13 to 21 or something like that, 17 to 24. Yeah. It's like literally
young demo.
Like, yeah, it's like 80% of their users. Like 80% of people between 12 or 13 to 21 is on Snapchat, and that's like 80% of their users. So if you're trying to reach the younger demographic, go to Snapchat, get engaged with AR. They use AR more than anyone else. I think that's why I think older people may laugh at filters and dog ears and branded face filters, all this stuff, but they're not realizing that their nephews and their grandkids, they're the ones who are using it. They are the ones who are buying these products from these filters. And I think sometimes it just goes over the older generation's head, because they're like, well, I haven't used it. My friends don't use it. None of my business partners use it. I don't really hear anything about it. And it's like, yeah, you don't hear anything about it because it's the 15, 16, 17-year-olds who are using it and buying stuff.
Unless you're socializing with the crowd that is much younger than you, you're probably not going to hear much about AR. However, we can vouch that the younger crowds are certainly understand this. This has been part of their cultural complex for years now, and it's only going to become more robust. So anybody, again, Snapchat, Lens Studio, anybody can use it. You can go down the Lens Studio and build AR filters now. Again, if you're a designer or somebody who has familiarity with any type of 3D program, you'll get Lens Studio as soon as you open it up.
Now for WebAR is a powerful, we'll kind of call it platform, if you will, just for the sake of this episode. WebAR is where you can publish your AR content to a URL. There's no app, it's appless, it's in the browser, Chrome, Safari, Firefox, all of your normal browsers. So this is really, really cool for experiential marketing, where it can be frictionless. You don't have to do any downloads of an app. You don't have to upload an app. Sometimes I've ran into that with Facebook and Snapchat. If you want to view a certain experience, you have to update the app. So then you have to go to the App Store and update the application. So WebAR kind of eliminates that. You still have to get people into a URL, but it's really, really cool because you don't have to download an app, and it's very, very frictionless, and it's really, really good for kind of like one-off experiences as well, because again, you don't have to download an app. Scan a QR code, type in a URL, boom, the AR experience launches in your browser. When you want to publish to WebAR, when you want to publish to the browser, we're going to start with 8th Wall. 8th Wall is kind of a pioneer in this space. They've been around for maybe 7-8 years. They've raised a few $1 million. The one thing about 8th Wall, though, is that it's not really self-service in the way that you're going to go and just upload your content and it's going to give you a URL. This is for your developers internally. Your developers internally are going to use 8th Wall to develop an experience. They're going to be writing code. They have a code editor. You're going to go into the dashboard and you're going to write your code in order to publish your experience. One thing about 8th Wall as well is that it's super expensive. I mean, you're looking at $1,000 a month to $3,000 a month, and you can't white label it. One of the biggest cons about 8th Wall is that they put their powered by 8th Wall in front of all of the experiences. So you spend $3,000 a month, and when someone loads it up, it says powered by 8th Wall. So really, really good if you're a developer or if you have the budget and internal developers to build more complex experiences. And if you have the budget and if you don't mind not being able to white label the experience, Eighth Wall is a pretty good option.
Yeah, I think Eighth Wall is that piece we talked about in our pricing episode where we talk about the $1,000, the $10,000, $100,000 project. Eighth Wall is your $100,000 platform. If you've got a project and you've got a budget of 100K, Eighth Wall is a tool that's where that project could live. If you're, sub 100K, Eighth Wall may not be the right thing for you.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, you definitely need some budget to use Eighth Wall. Now, one that's a little bit less expensive and notable pioneer in the space as well is Zapper. Zapper has a tool called ZapWorks that you can build the experiences in and publish to their app or publish to their web AR. It's going to be less expensive for the application side. It does take a notable jump when you want to go into web AR, and then a very, very notable jump when you want to white label the URL. And what I mean by white label URL is, their URL is going to be zapperar.com/your company name, as opposed to being yourcompanyname.com to launch the experiences. So ZapWorks is really good. It's a little bit more self-service, kind of like drag and drop, almost like a Canva, if you will, where you can upload your image and then drag and size a video over it and add buttons and links and stuff like that. So if you have like a very good idea of what you want, if you want buttons in the left and call to action buttons up top, and you want to be able to do this and that, check out ZapWorks. It's pretty intuitive, pretty simple to kind of figure out. Like I said, heavily drag and drop. And it's kind of in that middle range as far as expense and time consuming. It's not going to take you a ton of time to create experiences, but again, you're going to have to kind of figure out the tool for your liking. Now, going on to Avo, which is the software that we've been building out, this is really good for small to medium-sized businesses. Super, super easy to white label the URLs. You can keep everything on brand. The one kind of caveat about Avo is that it's based more on templates. So you're not going to be able to drag and drop stuff. You're going to be able to go in there, upload your content, and it's going to kick you out an AR experience that looks the best in the template. So if you have 3D models, filters, videos, and you just want to have a place to go and upload it in order to have your visitors experience it, Avo is a really great option, and you can white label the URL really, really easily. So Avo is much more on that self-service side of things, very inexpensive and very little time needed. And there is some other web AR options out there, but going from the top, Eighth Wall is your more expensive development side of things. Zapper is going to be your medium expenses, kind of drag and drop, and then Avo is going to be your inexpensive, fully self-service option. And it's really great. All those tools are great to publish your campaigns into the browser, appless experiences.
So browser-based experiences are really cool. And I think that there is a lot of value to those. Now, they may not be quite as robust as something like what Snapchat and Facebook and Instagram can do because they're using app-based AR. However, how many people have access to web AR today?
Pretty much anyone with a browser.
So according to Statista, that number is 4.5 billion people.
Oh my gosh.
4.5 billion. So that's 60% of the global population has access to web AR. Again, if you don't think web AR or if you don't think augmented reality is out there, is adopted yet, it's already there. People have it in their hands. They just need to be brought into an experience in a way that makes sense for them. So we've been talking a lot about augmented reality, and there's a lot of power behind augmented reality. And I think augmented reality has a lot of potential to connect with consumers and an audience. However, we haven't talked much about virtual reality. So As far as existing platforms go, you may be wondering, like, how is there something out there that everybody can get into when you have to have a headset for VR? And the answer to that is you actually don't really need a headset for VR, at least not all the time. You can access a VR experience just inside of a mobile browser. Or, Bradley, have you ever seen like the 360 videos on YouTube?
Yeah, and even on Facebook and stuff like that. I know they were on Facebook for a while.
Yeah, those are essentially a virtual reality experience. Now, it's not something that you can fully navigate a world, but you can look around and see content in a new way. And you're kind of stepping into the content at that point. And one tool that allows you to do that on the web without having to put on a headset is Mozilla's Hubs. In its simplest form, Hubs is social VR. And what I mean by that is it allows users to go into Hubs, create a room, and then you enter the room as an avatar. And you can actually, from laptop, from a desktop computer, from a mobile device, from a headset, you can walk around these rooms as the avatar and actually meet, interact, talk to other people that are other avatars inside of the room. And what's really cool about it is you get this social experience from it that you really can't get anywhere else. I don't know if you've ever done one of those experiences where you can put on a headset and talk to somebody else inside of a VR world. It's very much like you're hanging out with that person in that room. Except in Hubs, you don't have to have a headset to do that. You can do it on the web. And they've actually built an authoring tool to build rooms inside of Hubs. So you can go make your own VR world. The tool that they've created is called Spoke. And Spoke actually has a lot of assets already built into it that you can go and build some rooms, build a stage, do a concert. They've actually connected it to Google Poly. They've connected it to Sketchfab. So you can go in and drop in free models, just like some of the other platforms that we're talking about. And then you can publish that out to Hubs and share it with anybody. And it's really cool because it democratizes VR. No longer do you have to have this big development team that's going to build something inside of a Unity or Unreal environment just to get into VR. You can go do it today. And if you've ever seen something like Minecraft, where these kids go in and build these elaborate worlds with boxes, Spoke can do that. It is just like that, being able to create these worlds. Then you can go into and socialize and interact with other people. There's very little interaction with the actual environment. So there's not like interactivity in there. It's not like you can go in and create puzzles or create these escape rooms or anything like that. But they're more like creative spaces where people can gather and talk, even though they're representatives as avatars. So again, web AR, web VR with Hubs, 4.5 billion people have access to this stuff.
And one cool thing that you kind of touched on is that if you build out an experience in Hubs, not everyone has to have a headset in order to experience it. You can go to it on your mobile device, you can go to it on your desktop. Obviously, if you have a VR headset, you're going to get the full experience. But, I mean, Dave and I were playing around there last week, and I was on my desktop, and it was a really, really cool experience. So everyone can go to it. Don't feel like if you build an experience in Hubs, only people with a VR headset is going to be able to experience it.
So what are some of the other things out there? I know that we've talked about kind of the big ones, right? The Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat. We've talked about the web AR stuff with Eighth Wall, Zapper, and Avo, and then Hubs as far as VR goes. But there are other platforms out there that we haven't talked about too much that you can get into and actually may already have on your phone and you don't even know it, or may have access to it and you don't even know it. So one platform is called Adobe Aero. And they have an app you can download. If you have an Adobe account, you can sign in and you can actually start creating stuff in AR right now. And they literally walk you through step by step how to put an object in AR space, add some interactivity to it, and then you can experience it for yourself. Another one is Apple's Reality Composer, which may or not already be on your iPhone. Go check out Apple's Reality Composer, because if you have any familiarity with Keynote, it's like a Keynote for AR. It is so cool. And then lastly, we have Seek.
Yeah, Seek is kind of your enterprise 3D model visualization tool. So think about, Walmart, they have some new toy and they upload a 3D model to Seek. and then Seek kicks you out a URL, and Walmart would put that on their product description, so you could click it and kind of see the product in your room. You could kind of see it in depth. Seek, kind of similar to Eighth Wall. It's expensive. It's not going to be your, small to medium sized businesses. It's going to be your big enterprise businesses who have a budget, have some developers to figure out everything. But it is an option to think about if you're wanting to experience web AR.
Yeah, so I think in all, what's really cool about this stuff is that all of these tools, all of these platforms we're talking about, it's all available for you to go and experiment with today. I think one of the biggest things is just figuring out which one works for you and your customers and where your audience already lives. Are they on Facebook? Are they on Snapchat? Build your experiences there. Now, while all of these platforms offer entry-level assets and tools, creatives that know how to use them or have some experience working in creative software are going to be able to take these experiences way beyond what you ever imagined they could be. So find those people that know the software, that understand the AR and VR worlds, and have them help you out, because there's no reason you can't start experimenting with existing platforms today. Next time on Immersive Reality, we take a deeper dive into how to engage with your audience. Be sure to follow us on Spotify and check us out wherever you get your podcasts. That's it for this episode of Immersive Reality.